Welcome to Evolving Into Her. I'm Ashlee Hope, and this is your weekly check-in to get out of your head, into your body, and back into alignment with the version of you who's already living the vision. So grab your favorite cup of tea, settle in, and let's get into the show. Hi, love. Welcome back to Evolving Into Her. I'm Ashlee Hope, and if you're new here, this is where we talk about mindset, identity, faith, self-trust for the women who are done surviving and ready to step into overflow. Real quick before we get into it, if you've been listening for a minute and this podcast has helped you in any way, please do me a favor and take literally 5 seconds right now. We'll wait. Please take a moment to rate the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. This year, I'm intentionally growing the podcast without constantly being on Instagram. Your girl is done. All right. And so your ratings really help other women find these conversations. Speaking of which, just last week, I got this comment on Spotify. Shout out to Pamela Denise. Hey, girl. Hey. And she said, I went to Spotify to pick some music to listen to while I work, and boom, I see you. I clicked and now I'm hooked. I must admit, I was a little scared when you said God, but your podcast is not preachy, which I love. You speak in a language I understand. Thank you so much for creating this space. I listened to the last episode, then immediately went back to the beginning. Your guided meditations are amazing. Thank you. Pamela, thanks again for your comment. Again, I love when you guys comment on Spotify. I read and reply to every single one. So don't be scared, okay? You can come chit chat with me. I will see it. I won't leave you hanging in the dust. I'm a real person and I'm going to reply. And the thing about Pamela's comment is that I've seen this similar sentiment over and over. Women stumbling across the show on Spotify or Apple. And friend, that is not by coincidence. That's because you are rating and reviewing the show and you're showing so much love. And thus the algorithm puts us in front of more women who need to hear these types of conversations. So I appreciate everyone who has poured back into this space. All right, today's topic. So the other day I posted something on Threads, and as soon as I hit post, I was like, oh, wait, this needs to be a podcast episode. And that happens a lot. Sometimes I will pull podcast episodes from something I said in my stories years ago or from a thread I posted. I just go back and recycle my own content. But this is a great topic, especially since the practice just launched. By the way, the practice, my free year-long journaling series, it dropped Sunday and I'm so excited about it. So if you haven't signed up already, you can jump in anytime, whether you're hearing this episode in January, in June, or even October, child. Anytime is a good time to join. But each week this year, you'll receive just one prompt designed to help you move from survival mode to overflow. And this whole quarter, January through March, we're going deep into safety. But we'll come back to that because it ties directly into what we're talking about today. So back to Threads, I want to read to you what I posted. I said, fun fact, I only keep journal entries about who I'm becoming, what I'm calling in, gratitude, etc. When I need to process something emotionally, it happens in a separate journal. I get it out, read it once, then release it. Many times I'll burn the entry. I'm sure there's some science to this, but intuitively, I know to keep them separate. And in the thread, I said there's probably some science to this, so I went ahead and looked it up for y'all. And sure enough, there's definitely science to this. And you guys know I just am so elated about that. I'm so excited to share. But before I even knew any of this, I just felt it. I knew I need to keep them separate. It was definitely an intuitive nudge. But anyway, let me break down what I learned, why it matters, and how it might help you too. So, friend, you know the routine, okay? Grab something you can sip slow, and let's get into the show. And I want to preface this by saying, this is my practice. I want to be very clear. So please take what resonates and kindly leave what doesn't, okay? Because I want you to feel the freedom to make this your own. if you choose to do so. You have free will. All right. So, what I've learned through my own practice is there's a huge difference between becoming work and processing work. And the difference is energetic and it's practical. All right. Just follow me for a minute here. Your becoming work is your vision. It's who you're stepping into. It's your gratitude, your joy, your glimmers, your identity shifts, your intentions, your affirmations, your dear God letters, what you're anchoring into. This is your foundation. It's the work you want to come back to when you need to remember who you are and where you're going. And then there's processing work. And that's where you're working through emotions, triggers, traumas, old wounds, maybe some shadow work, emotional release, all the messy stuff that comes up when you're actually doing the work. And the processing is necessary. It's alchemy. But you don't camp out there, right? You feel, you acknowledge, you process, and you keep it moving. So when you mix them in the same journal, you're creating what neuroscience calls interference. I just learned about this, but basically, you're confusing your brain about what you're trying to reinforce. And the ways this could show up really blew my mind. And for my fellow nerds, you're going to appreciate this. So, the first thing that happens is emotional contamination. And that sounds pretty straightforward. You open up your journal and you're going to write something you're grateful for, and boom, you see that entry from 2 weeks ago when you were processing something heavy, processing something Brandon's raggedy self sent you. Maybe childhood stuff. Maybe you're going through a breakup. Maybe it was a moment you felt completely unsafe. And suddenly you're not in the mood for gratitude anymore. You're not in gratitude mode anymore. You're back in that space when you wrote that entry. Your body has tensed up, your nervous system has went into overdrive, and now this journal that was supposed to feel safe, that's supposed to feel sacred, is making you feel irritable or frustrated. And when you reread these entries about the trauma you experienced or heavy emotional content, your brain doesn't just remember it, it doesn't just recall it, your brain re experiences it. Your nervous system literally cannot tell the difference between reading about the pain and living through it again. And your body responds the same way. Your cortisol spikes, your heart rate increases, you feel it in your chest. So at this point, you're not just reflecting, you are reliving it. So interesting. So, a second thing that can happen when you mix your becoming entries and your processing entries in the same journal, the heavy stuff tends to overshadow everything else. And this is called negativity bias. So, your brain holds on to the painful experiences more than the positive ones. This is just a survival mechanism, no need to judge it. Literally, everyone experiences it until you train yourself not to anymore. So when your transformation entries are mixed in with the trauma entries, your brain focuses on the heavy stuff. So at the end of the year, you may be doing some reflecting and you're flipping through looking for that affirmation you wrote, that moment of clarity, that breakthrough, but all you see are the hard days, the hard times. And you start believing that's the whole story. And it's really hard to see or appreciate your progress because the pain is taking up all the space. Third thing that happens when you mix your becoming entries and your processing entries in the same journal, you could end up avoiding the hard stuff or rushing through it. Here's what I mean. When you need to process something deep, let's say it's a trigger or an old wound, you need to be mentally ready to go there. You need space to feel it fully, to work through it, and then close that container when you're done. But when it's all mixed together in one journal, you can't control when you'll run into them heavy entries. You might just want to, write some gratitude, set an intention, something cute, but then you flip back a few pages and boom, there's that painful thing you wrote about your ex or your childhood or that triggering conversation. So one of two things happens. Either you start avoiding your journal altogether because you never know what emotional landmine you might step on, or you start skipping over the deep stuff because you're just not in the right headspace to actually sit with it and heal. And the fourth thing, this one's big. it makes it almost impossible to track your growth. And on this journey of life, on this journey of evolving, on this journey of becoming, tracking your receipts, tracking your growth is everything. This is how you know the work is working. This is how you collect tangible proof. When you're healing, transforming, you need to be able to look back and see how far you've come. But if your becoming entries are buried between entries about your worst days, you can't see the pattern. It's hard to make sense of it. You can't see that you've actually been healing. You can't celebrate how much you shifted. The whole thing just feels chaotic instead of transformative. And the science is clear. When we organize different types of work into their own spaces, we're creating clearer neural pathways. And we're telling our brain, this goes here, that goes there. Much like organizing a closet. When everything's mixed together, you can't find anything. But when it's separated, it's color coordinated. The shoes are where they're supposed to be. The summer stuff is where it's supposed to be. The fall and winter stuff is where it's supposed to be. You know exactly where to look. You can put your fits together. You could put that ish on. But like I said, I didn't know all of this when I started keeping the processing entries separate from the becoming entries. I just felt it. I just knew that mixing them didn't feel right to me, so I didn't do it. Okay. And I'm really glad that we can back this with facts, that I could share this with my audience. And it's not just, it feels right to keep them separate. I actually did some research, and you can do some further research too. There might be some other reasons why it serves you to keep them separate. But if I were on the other end of the phone, because yes, this feels like we on the phone, girl, we having a chit chat. If I was on the other end of the phone and I was listening to this, I would be like, you know what? Let me go down to the Walgreens. Let me go to, well, we ain't going to Target no more, but let me go down to CVS. Let me go on Amazon.com and get me another journal. Okay. And let me keep the becoming and the processing separate. That's what I would do. But again, this is your journey. You have to do what's best for you. So, final breakdown, I have my main journal. Okay. I call it my becoming journal, but call yours whatever feels right for you, whatever feels aligned for you. If you are participating in the practice, your becoming journal is where your answers to those prompts will go. My becoming journal, that's where I write about what I'm calling it, who I'm becoming, my prayers, my vision, my intentions, my gratitude, my joy, downloads, those moments of clarity that just hit different, affirmations. The becoming journal is my anchor. It's intentional, it's forward focused. And then I have my processing journal. And honestly, sometimes it's not even a journal, sometimes it's loose paper, but the point is I keep it separate. So when I'm in my processing journal, I'm not trying to be pretty about it. I'm not looking for some big revelation. I'm literally just getting it out of my body. Whatever I'm feeling, whatever came up, whatever's sitting in my chest, I write it down and I let myself feel all of it. Sometimes I'll read it out loud to myself just to witness it, and then I release it. And for me, that usually means burning it. Something about fire just feels like completion, but you don't have to burn anything. You can shred it, you can throw it away, or you can just keep the whole journal if that feels better for you. The point with the processing journal is the energetic release. So get it out, feel it, express it, release it, and be done with it. So if you're participating in the practice, the prompts I'm going to be sending you every week, those live in your becoming journal, all of them. They're designed to be kept, to be built on, to be returned to. They're tracking your transformation over time. Even the prompts that may bring up some heavy stuff, those are still becoming work because they're building self-awareness and identity. And it's not just a trauma dump or a vent session. So that's the difference. Now, here's what I know is going to happen. So you might as well be mentally prepared. You're going to be going on about your day and suddenly spiral about something. You're going to get triggered in a conversation. An old wound is going to randomly surface. Something's going to happen that you just need to vent about. And that is when you grab your processing journal. So The practice prompts stay in your becoming journal or whatever you want to call it. That's your anchor, your structure, your weekly check-in with who you're becoming. But the processing journal, that is for the emotional work that pops up between the prompts when life is just happening, the stuff that catches you off guard, when your boss pisses you off or your kids are overstimulating you, the moments where you just need to get it out. And, you're not going to have a framework or a prompt or a plan. Just you can let it be raw and messy. And here's how they work together. The practice gives you structure for your becoming work, and the processing journal gives you space for everything else that comes up while you're living your life. You got it? Good. So if this is landing for you, if it is making sense, here's what I want you to consider. Get 2 journals, 2 separate spaces. Both are sacred, but keep them separate and set a clear intention for each one. So your becoming journal, call it your main journal, vision journal, intentional journal, whatever resonates for you. This is where you're building, where you're anchoring into who you are and who you're becoming, where the practice prompts will live. And then your processing journal. This is where you handle the unplanned, messy, day-to-day life stuff, the spirals, the random triggers, the venting, the crash outs, the emotional work that catches you off guard. This one, you process, you release, and you move on, okay? If you're not sure which journal something belongs in, ask yourself, is this something I want to return to and build on? Or is this something I need to move through and release? Building on it, it belongs in the becoming journal. Moving through it, put it in the processing journal. And that's it. And when you're done processing something, complete the cycle, okay? Sit with it, feel it, express it, then release it. That's the important part. Release it, boo. You don't got to burn it, but let it go. So the goal here with the 2 journals is really to not let that processing energy contaminate your becoming energy. You can hold space for both, but just keep them separate. And please take this with you before I close. Remember that becoming isn't about being perfect or having your together all the time. You're going to get triggered, girl. Okay? I guarantee that. Old wounds are still going to surface. That's just a part of being human. So basically, the goal is to protect your foundation, honor the messy work of healing, but protect the sacred work of transformation. Give them both the space they need, just not in the same place. And that's what this 2 journal practice has done for me. And if it resonates, I hope it does the same for you. If your journal looks a hot mess, if you've been avoiding it because it brings up painful memories, if you look back at 2025 and you don't feel proud of your progress, try keeping 2 journals and see how that feels. It might change everything for you. And if you want some structure and foundation this year in your journaling practice, this is exactly what the practice gives you. And the first prompt dropped this past Sunday, and we're doing this together for the entire year. Just imagine the woman you'll be at the end of this journey. Imagine having a full year transformation you can look back on and actually feel proud of. If you're not signed up yet, the link is in the show notes. It's free. And if you found this episode helpful, girl, don't be stingy. Send it to your bestie, to your cousin, to your mom, to your daughter, to your colleague. And not that one colleague that thinks she the manager, okay? And she be all up in your business trying to micromanage. Girl, you are not the boss. Don't send it to her. Send it to your work bestie, okay? And tap those 5 stars on Apple or Spotify. Friend, I will see you Sunday for the next coffee chat. And it's our 50th episode. Can you believe it? So beautiful. So excited to journey through 2026 and beyond with you. I am Ashlee Hope. And until next time, stay in devotion to your becoming. I'm Ashlee Hope, and you've been listening to Evolving Into Her. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for choosing her, for choosing yourself. And until next time, stay in devotion to your becoming.